Hello, everybody, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Amber Rose, also known as the Religious Hippie. You can basically follow me on any social media platform, or you can go straight to my website at thereligioushippie.com. So, today we are doing another help segment because I got a few emails in and I like to stay on top of them. I don't like to let them pile up as I have in the in the past, just because it kind of I want people to get their answers right away. And while I do email people personally to try and make sure they know that I see their email and I'm giving advice, they pile up after a while. So I only have two today, but they are hard hitters, and I already responded to them personally. But I think they are relatable to a lot of people, so that is why we're going to do that today. So, without further ado, grab your drink of choice. I have tea with honey, or honey with tea, if you will, because I like a lot of honey in my tea. We'll go ahead and get started. All right. So, our first one is, I think they're both anonymous. So, so it just kind of starts out. So, I'm a parent with one teenager and one adult. The adult A has left home and left the faith. He has put up a boundary saying I shouldn't discuss Catholicism with him or he will not talk to me. The teenager, T, does all the religious rites, going to mass, praying, activities, etc., but just to please me. She has hinted that she doesn't really believe in Catholicism and is just going through the motions to keep the peace. I continue to pray for them. My husband and I raised my children faithfully in the faith. For example, Catholic school, baptism, going to Mass every Sunday, carrying out the sacraments, family devotion, modeling the faith to them, etc. I now believe that while we can raise our kids in the faith, we can't keep them in it. We can only increase the chances of kids keeping the faith, but the choice to keep the faith is theirs. Do you agree? And what would you have to say to parents of kids who have left the faith, or those who stay in the faith because of environmental pressure and not because they truly believe in it? Thank you in advance. Yeah, this one's really difficult, but yes, I do agree with your assessment. While parents can and should, of course, raise their children in the faith, provide a strong foundation, and pray fervently for their perseverance and, in general, just, their faith. Free will still tends to be a player in this. So, a lot of times, we have an idea of how we want our kids to be raised, how we want them to see the faith and stuff, and we can do all the right things and they still fall away from the faith, because at the end of the day, free will is a part of our relationship with God, and faith eventually does have to become more of a personal conviction and not just this family tradition. I went through that a lot, where I hated going to mass. I didn't understand the sacraments. I didn't understand confession, which is one of the sacraments, but I really didn't understand anything about it. And I went to a TLM, like I went to a traditional Latin mass. I was not poorly catechized. I mean, I was poorly catechized, but it was because um I didn't grasp the information. Not necessarily because the information itself wasn't easy to grasp, but because I myself just refused to grasp it. And so for me, I really do think that every kid kind of goes through this phase of rediscovering the faith for themselves, because you can be raised in the faith and so many people just kind of follow that. And I don't think that's wrong. I don't think that's bad. But sometimes there does come a point in life where we really are challenged with either staying in the faith or not staying in the faith. And a lot of kids end up falling away from the faith. Sorry, Archimedes wants to come in, but I can't let him in. And a lot of these challenges come with the faith, and these kids have to face, like, okay, am I going to follow the world or God, or am I going to follow the world and figure myself out and then eventually come back to God? So many people, they fall away from the church. They claim they hate the church. I was one of those people. I claimed I hated the church. And then they come back and then they become like me. Maybe not exactly like me, but they become devout Catholics. So I think everyone kind of goes on a journey like this, some a little bit more than others. If you can, I would ask your teenage daughter, like, hey, what about the faith don't you believe in, or this or that? Sometimes it's pressures from society. Other times it can be, I don't know, it could be anything from like her just not feeling a connection to the faith. Um, there are so many different factors, but you're never really going to know unless you kind of like open the floor up for discussion, and not the type of discussion where you're trying to convince her that the faith is true or this or that, but just listening to her and listening to what she has to say. I think a lot of parents forget to do that. They forget to listen to their kids. I'm not saying that's you specifically, but again, I'm giving a broader um, kind of answer for those out there who are struggling with the same thing. I think a lot of parents forget to just like sit down with their kid, and instead of just like talking at them and telling them why they should stay Catholic and not leave the faith, really listening to them and seeing like, okay, this is this is the problem. It's not necessarily the faith itself, but it's the struggle they're going through, or maybe it's a theological thing that they don't understand, and you could offer more insight into without being like, well, you shouldn't leave the faith because blah, blah, blah. So that can be really hard as a parent because you always want what's best for your kid. And obviously, the role as a parent is to plant the seeds, but we can't force the kids to bloom. You can water it, you can compost, you can do all the stuff to help bloom the flower, but you can't force it, right? So I think conversion and faithfulness are ultimately between that child and God. And of course, like I said, you can open it up for discussion, you can talk about it, but um sometimes you can do everything possible and the child still doesn't keep the faith, and they go off, and then they come back later. So I don't think that that's too out of the ordinary. I do invite you to remember, though, the prodigal son, which is in Luke chapter 15, 11 through 32. And just remember that the father never stopped praying or loving his son. And when he came back, there was this huge celebration. And, you just really need to entrust your adult and your teenager, your adult child and your teenager to Christ, and to God's mercy. Because God is way more invested in your child's salvation than you are. And that kind of like leads me to my next point, which, you know, for your adult son, he has clearly drawed, is that even a word? He's clearly drawn a boundary. And as a mother, you do need to respect that boundary of your adult child if you do want a relationship with them. Um, and while it's painful to not discuss, the faith with your child and, stuff, respecting his boundary is going to be really important because that shows that you love him, and it shows a maturity, because then he will be able to trust you, and you'll be able to just show him Catholic charity and Catholic love and all of that stuff through your actions, because actions do speak louder than words. And just being a witness of joy and patience and unconditional love, like that's one of the best things you can do. So continue to pray for his conversion, respect his boundary, and just show him the love. You don't have to talk about Catholicism. And keeping that door open could eventually lead to him coming back, right? Um, you can ask for the intercession of Saint Monica. You can ask for the intercession of Saint Joseph, of course. We know that Saint Monica prayed for years for her son Augustine to come back to the faith. And then eventually he was converted by Saint Ambrose, Bishop of Milan. And she bugged him a lot. And Saint Ambrose was like, please go away. You're really annoying. But she kept trying. And eventually Saint Augustine was converted by him. So yeah, there's that. But just trust that your prayers as a parent are powerful, and you might not see immediate results, but you also might never see results in your lifetime. You might die never knowing. And that's the beauty about trusting God, is knowing that our prayers are going towards them, and that, they're going towards hopefully their salvation and final repentance when it becomes their time. But their story isn't over yet. And, many people leave the faith on their own, and then find their way back, like I said. So sometimes it's necessary for them to stray away in order to truly appreciate the faith and to, truly give themselves over to God and follow the faith fully and faithfully, as opposed to just doing it out of obligation. Um, So yeah, I would say just keep praying for them. Um, there's they're becoming adults, and it's kind of that point as a parent too where you have to kind of become more hands off and have more trust in the way that you raise them and stuff. And no parent is perfect. I'm sure there are probably things that you wish you would have done better, things you wish you would have done more of. Every parent is like that. But if you trust in their childhood and what you did for them, God has the rest. And trusting in him and making sure that you leave that door open for when they are ready to come back, if that happens, um, that they know they can be safe with you and trusted. I think that's the most important thing. So yeah, I want to read some comments here because I saw you guys kind of commenting a little bit. I have some on Instagram, but hang on, can I do this? Yeah, there we go. Now I can see on Instagram. Okay. Okay. For me, while I was learning for sacraments in my teenage years, I didn't feel comfortable to ask questions, still struggle with it, which made me step away from the church. Yeah. So sometimes, people genuinely just don't feel comfortable asking questions in class. I was one of those kids who was drawing comics and passing them to the boy next to me because I thought they were really funny, and we were definitely hilarious. I have no idea where that kid is now. I hope he's doing well, but I could not spell for the life of me. So it was it was a little messed up, but it was really funny. And that's what we did during class. We didn't really pay attention. It's really difficult. Yes. Okay. I started saying the rosary and again and asking for Mary's help. I realized that I couldn't serve two masters and chose Jesus. Yes, Matt, that is beautiful. It's really difficult sometimes. Um, see, 15 and 16 seems to be that pivotal time when teens decide a path. Sometimes they eventually come back. Yeah. So it really does come down to, leaving that door open, making sure that they feel safe to come to you with questions, concerns, whatever it might be about the faith. Because I'll be honest, some parents do not make that easy. Some parents do not leave that doorway open because they're not properly catechized. And so, because they're not properly catechized, they cannot properly catechize their children. And that's awful, honestly. I think that's really unfortunate when parents aren't catechized themselves and that they don't take it seriously enough to then learn the faith for themselves to then teach their children. Because we're a part of the domestic church, and you have to be able to know the faith and be a part of that and be able to pass that down to your kids. And if you don't have enough information yourself, the kids aren't going to learn. And so yeah, I think, just being that safe space they can go to. I hate the term safe space, but you guys know, like a real safe space, not what people call it today. And just being someone that your kids feel like they can go to with questions and concerns and stuff like that, especially now that they're adults, is going to be really important. So that's my little tidbit. Let's go on to the second one we have today. And then I'll take some questions since we only have two today. Normally I have like 3 or 4 help segments to go through, but since I don't, we'll do a little Q&A. Peach tea. Okay. Hey, Amber, I'm in a dilemma and would appreciate your help. I got you. I would like this to be anonymous, and here's my background. I'm a 17-year-old male. I'm a baptized Protestant, but I am currently in OCIA after a conversion experience in the Catholic shrine. Here's the problem. Ever since I began my conversion process, I've felt called to marriage, but I don't think I'm masculine enough to be a husband. I've always been the nerdy thinker type and don't know many guy skills because I never had anyone to teach me. I never had many guy friends. I'm introverted and can barely talk to other people. Worst of all, when I was younger, I was essayed by my female babysitter, and that caused me to have a lot of problems with sex and until recently, SSA. For those who don't know, SSA is same sex attraction. To put it simply, I don't feel like I am enough of a man, and no woman would ever want to be with me. I would love nothing more than to be a father and protector, but I don't think I'm cut out for it. I would appreciate your help. Thanks in advance. All right, so firstly, I'm so glad you're going through OCIA. Congratulations. That's phenomenal. I'm so glad you're becoming Catholic. that is the first step, right? That is the main first step. So that is so exciting. Congratulations. And I know I can say on behalf of all my followers and everybody watching and commenting and everything, congratulations. Secondly, I appreciate that you reached out on this topic because I don't think there's a lot of guys out there who are willing to kind of talk about this and the fact that they struggle with it. And I'll kind of talk about a friend of mine who works with guys specifically like you and guys like this, and he's doing phenomenal work. But I think well, first of all, I want to say that I am not a man. So I don't know if I'm exactly the best person to be asking this, but take my advice with a grain of salt because I don't I don't know how much I can relate, but I can at least point you in the right direction, hopefully. So, the first thing I want to kind of touch on is just kind of explaining that, or I just want you to remember that marriage is not about, fitting into a stereotype of masculinity. It's about sacrificial love. And I want to tell you here, and I'll tell you right now, some of the most quote unquote macho guys, whether it's online or offline or whatever, who fit the typical masculine stereotype are actually some of the most meanest, prideful, and, you know, uh, just like so disrespectful towards women type of men I've ever met in my life. Not to say that that every single guy who has muscles and like fits the chiseled jawline or whatever stereotype is like that. Of course they're not. But a majority almost of guys who I have met who are like that do not respect women. A lot of them are racist, which is a whole other story in itself. They're abusive. They're kind of like bro duty and they're just like, "Oh, you took like a cold shower today? Well, I've only eaten rocks since Saturday." Everything's a competition. Everything's rooted in pride. They're extremely insecure people. So it's important to remember that just because you look masculine does not mean you actually are masculine and you exhibit those masculine traits, right? Because it takes a lot more than just to look masculine to be a man. It takes virtue. Humility is mainly the virtue, strength of character, and the willingness to protect, provide, and serve. Which it seems like you already have the willingness to do those things, which is really good. Um, when it comes to guy skills, you're going to have to push out of your comfort zone. There's no way I can sugarcoat this and be like, "Oh yeah, we'll just work on yourself in your mom's basement or wherever you live and like you're going to get there." You're going to have to kind of stuff the introvertedness down and you're going to have to break out of that comfort zone. I can't really tell you that that's you can't stay there and grow. Because I think most of the time people stay there out of fear, not because they're actually introverted, but because they're afraid. And fear is not something that you want to have. I would suggest fortitude and temperance, looking into those virtues. Actually, I have my cardinal virtues series coming out the next couple weeks. And Clay says, "Fake it till you make it." There's plenty of online resources to learn survival skills, work on cars, etc. Everything is a skill, and it just loaded. Everything is a skill and there's a resource to get there. Yes, that is very true. Very, very true. If for guy skills, if you have a friend, relative, etc., that is a good at skills, humbly approach them. It's very good. Yeah, exactly. I know you said you don't have anybody, but there are a lot of guys out there online who have resources, etc., which brings me to my next point. Only other men can teach you how to be a man, right? I can't do that. I can offer advice and point you in the right direction and tell you what a woman wants in a man, but I cannot specifically tell you or teach you how to be a man because I am not a man. I am a woman. And I would say one of the best people for that is a friend of mine named Jarrell. Jarrell. Some I'll put it. It's in the if you guys are watching on YouTube, it's in the description. And he helps guys like you all the time with fitness, confidence, how to approach Catholic women. He is specifically Catholic and he sees this issue of of men in the Catholic Church not stepping up to their full potential, having issues with pride, having issues with being insecure and all this stuff. And he's challenging them. And it's really, really good. And I've seen tons of fruit from this, whether it's a fitness program, a diet, coaching, confidence coaching, someone to just talk to about this. I think Joe would be really, really good for you. So his Instagram is linked in the description below on YouTube. I don't know if it's on any other platform yet, but you guys can find him at Joe, so JoeJarrell_ on Instagram. And so I highly suggest guys, you guys reach out to him and tell him that I sent you, because I'm actually doing I'm doing a virtual call with them tomorrow to kind of talk about dating and stuff like that. So highly, highly suggest you guys go check him out. And he's actually going to come on my podcast, I think next week, to talk about this specific issue. So stay tuned for that. But again, when it comes to introverted, I'd also like for you to remember that there's no record of Saint Joseph ever saying a word in the Bible. He was the manliest man, and yet he spoke very little, or at least none at all from what we know of, but I'm sure he did speak. He had to have spoken, right? But like I said, being introverted only becomes a problem when it becomes fear. When it becomes like this crutch because we're afraid of talking to people rather than it just being like a temperament and needing to recharge after being around people. And I'm sure around the right people, when you get comfortable, you open up a lot. And I think that's really important. But like Clay said, sometimes we do need to just suck it up and fake it till we make it. And I've sucked up a lot in my life to be able to just be in social situations. I'm not saying suck it up as in like, oh, be tolerant of like sin and like that type of thing, but to suck up your own insecurities, to be a part of the public space. Because the more you start doing it, the more you're going to start believing in yourself and the better you're going to get at it. The only way you're going to get better is if you practice. Let me think. Okay, what was the other thing here? Yes, your past struggles with SSA. These do not make you less of a man. They're a part of your story, and they've likely given you a deeper understanding and compassion of the human heart. So, God's grace is working in you, and He's always leading you closer to Him. I don't think this is something you should be afraid of telling anyone, because the right girl will see your story, see how far you've come, what you've overcame, and she's going to respect that. So if you are still struggling with that, and if you haven't already, I would suggest following my friend Emmanuel Gonzalez, also Manny. He's fantastic. He's known as Call Me Manny with 3 Ys on Instagram, and he struggles with SSA. Now, he is celibate. I'm not saying that you are called to celibacy, but I am saying he could be somebody. You can watch his reels and stuff and kind of gain a better understanding of how to process this, how to handle this, and maybe seek some counseling or guidance from a priest. Um, so he's really great as well. I actually just did a podcast with him yesterday about this specific topic too. Look at us, already going crazy. I think, what was it, 2 days ago, I had a podcast with Trent, and we talked about pro-life stuff. So lots of great guys out there who you can get inspiration from and gain knowledge from. So I highly suggest you guys go and check those people out. They're good friends of mine, and they've helped so many men with these exact issues. Okay. The next one is you were saying about protector and provider. Yeah, so being a protector and a provider isn't necessarily about being socially dominant or anything like that. I originally said in my email it doesn't really have much to do with being like strong either, but I do think men do need to work out, right? They do need to work out. They do need to work on themselves physically. That's something that Joe can help you with. And the reason for that is because if there was some sort of threat, you have to be able to get rid of the threat to protect your family. And you can do that with pew pew, or you can do that with poo poo. Ideally you wouldn't bring these guns to a gunfight, but just for obvious reasons. That was really embarrassing. But I would say that it is important for you to be physically strong, and you're only going to do that through working out. There's at-home workouts. It really does take discipline, though. And I think that's a hard thing that people struggle with these days is just discipline in general. Um, and yeah, that's the main thing. Um, but yeah, it's about kind of I don't know. Let me see here. Sorry, I'm rereading real quick. I would say you really do need to focus on becoming the best version of yourself. That means getting closer to God, which you're already doing through OCIA, which is fantastic. Working out, working on your physical body, and then working on your confidence, and like people said, there are tons of resources out there that you could look into and find somebody that maybe connects with you and that you specifically like. My suggestion is obviously Joe Jarrell, but if there's another fitness person out there that you feel like inspires you and stuff, go for that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And again, the right woman's going to see your heart and she's going to love you as for the man that God created you to be. I think sometimes we set ourselves up for disaster before we even begin by feeding ourselves these lies that we're not worthy or we're not good enough or this or that. Now, there's always room for improvement. We should always be improving ourselves 100%. But I want you to remember that God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. So I just like to kind of leave it there. And hopefully Joe and Manny can kind of help you with that. But yeah. So God created everyone equal. Samuel Colt made it so. Do, 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 do. Learn how to be dangerous and control it. Is that a book, Clay? Yeah, true, Bernard. If a girl is into you, it won't be an ick. Um, yeah. Okay. So that's basically what I have for my help segments today. I'm gonna scroll over here on Instagram since I haven't been over here for a hot minute. But yeah, I'll do some Q&As now if you guys are down. I won't be able to get to everything, but I am going to try my best. So, you know, I'm doing my best. I'm just one person. If there was 5 of me, I'd be like, yeah, just endless content farming, if you will. But there's only one of me, so yes. Oh, Jimmy said awareness is your best tool in protection. If you can learn to spot trouble early, you can respond quickly and calmly before it gets physical or dangerous. That is very true. And that's the thing. I think there are a lot of guys out there who are willing to help, you or guys like you, if friends like that, or anyone here today who struggles with this issue. There are guys out there who are willing to help and want to help. And so I would say take their help, and it might be difficult. You might feel, I don't know, you might get offended even at times, but guys need to struggle physically and mentally to grow and mature. And I think, struggle is good. So, I mean, we don't love it, but struggle helps us grow. So, yeah. What has been your favorite part of marriage? Honestly, everything. Everything has been my favorite part of marriage, from basically endless sleepovers with my best friend to being able to go on little dates together to experiencing holidays together for the first time without having like that separation. Like, we're our own little family now, and coming up with our own little Christmas traditions or just traditions in general. All of that stuff has been phenomenal. So 10 out of everything. Everything. Also, spiritual protection. The amount of spiritual protection I have now is amazing, because Max is not just a protector and provider physically, but also spiritually. And I haven't been attacked nearly as much since, getting married and all of that stuff, which has been really, really great. Okay. Is your Christmas tree ready? No, not yet. I think we're getting, so here at this house, we're going to get a real Christmas tree, I believe. At my parents' house, I'm going to set up our fake Christmas tree and kind of put some little ornaments around and everything like that. So not yet. Not yet. We're still in, we're not even in Advent yet. So we'll see. All right, let's see here. Um, sorry, I need to like read the questions too because they're all coming in so quickly. It's the issue with this is that they all like I'm reading them and then they shoot up because so many new ones come in. Oh my gosh. Here we go. Okay. Finally. Let's see here. Hey Amber, we're planning on making Catholic content with our monk and priest. Monk/priest. Do you have any tips? Um, I mean, yeah, if you guys really want to get into content, I would say it doesn't take a whole lot, but I would highly suggest, getting um a good camera, good microphone. Really, it's about the quality because if you have at least good microphones and things like that, the sound is good, people are more likely to tune in for longer. Now, when I first started, I didn't have any of that. I was just doing it for fun. I had absolutely no way of knowing that it would become what it is today. And I still am sometimes shocked when I hear about, or when I see how big the ministry has gotten. And it all just started from me filming YouTube videos. And well, it started with TikTok, but you guys know what I mean. I would say if you guys are going to start filming content, make sure it's something that God wants you to do. Um, I think it's important because sometimes people do it because they want numbers, they want followers, they want money, and that's not the right idea to have when you're doing this work at all. Um, it's not a good mindset, first of all, because that's kind of greedy and, that's not good for our souls. But also because this work demands a lot of you, and not to say that you guys are gonna be like what I am, but it is really important to keep God at the forefront of your ministry and any content that you are creating. Otherwise, it'll become vain, prideful, etc. So as long as you're not focusing on the numbers and how many people listen or watch or anything like that, you're creating it because you want to do it for God and you want to get his message out there and things like that, I'd say go for it. But if you're doing it specifically because you want followers and fame and whatever, that's not the right idea to have. And I would bring that to adoration and kind of like check your heart and see where maybe that's coming from. Um, so yeah, I don't know if that helped, but again, in terms of like content though, it's like do whatever you guys want, and as long as the audio is at least good. I mean, I worked my way up literally from the bottom. I had no microphone when I first started filming my YouTube channel. And the camera I had was a very nice camera, but it was a gift and it was so old that it started breaking down only after a couple months of using it for videos. So, not the vibe, but yeah. So, hopefully that helps. Okay, hang on. Okay, I'm trying to jump back and forth between YouTube and Instagram. So, who are your favorite influencers/channels that are not faith related? Okay, let's see here. I watch Hannah Alonso. She does a lot of like MLM videos, multi-layer something like pyramid schemes. She reveals those, and I like quite a few of her videos. I also really like, let me think. Who are the other ones that I like? Let me go to my subscriptions. Hang on. Freedom Tunes, obviously. Seamus and we go way back, and his videos are still hilarious. I like watching Brett Cooper sometimes. She's really fun. Isabel Brown is really great too. She's awesome. I think I'm having her on the podcast in February, so that'll be really, really great. I also really like Surviving Narcissism. His videos are phenomenal. Who else am I subscribed to here? I have a lot. Hang on. I mean, I don't have a lot, but it's like I'm trying to scroll through my subs to see which ones aren't faith-based. I like Alex Myers. He does the movie reviews as a little cartoon. I think he's really funny. Jamie French, she's also very funny. I like watching her videos too. My husband and I watch her sometimes if we're bored or whatever. More Than Farmers is about a cute little family who has a homestead, and we like watching their videos to see what they can make from their um, uh, farm, I guess you could say. Yes, Little Girl I Babysit. I follow her YouTube channel. She's really sweet. Um, who else do I follow? I follow quite a few. There's, uh, well, I don't. Some of these people that show up in my subscriptions, I'm like, I don't remember following you, but they're there. Let me see if there's any others. Visual Venture, I also really like. I just like the look of his videos. They're very interesting. And honestly, that's about it. I don't really watch a whole lot, but it's like if I don't know. I don't watch him a whole lot or watch okay. I usually have YouTube on in the background. I like having something while I'm working unless I'm editing or something like that. But other than that, I just kind of like having it on in the background and whatever. All right. Are you a cradle Catholic or a convert? So I'm a cradle Catholic, but I'm a revert because I fell away for 8 years, and I came back in like I think it was the summer or winter of 2019. I have to look back in my photos, but I started slowly coming back over like the summer of 2019, but I didn't officially commit until like the winter spring of, 2020. And nobody could have prepared me for what would have happened. I don't think anyone could have prepared any of us for that matter. But yeah, so I fell away from the faith. I came back after 8 years because I had this major conversion in front of the Eucharist where during consecration, the priest lifted the host and it was like time stopped. And I felt Jesus speak into my heart, "Do you trust me?" And of course, I fought him on it. I was like, no, I've been through so much self harm and eating disorders and bullying and, pornography addictions, and just everything was so much, and I felt like there was no way I was lovable, and I went through so much that I didn't feel like uh I don't know, I felt weird about it. And eventually though, God did get through to me and I said, "Okay, I'll try." He just kept saying, "Do you trust me? Do you trust me? Do you trust me?" And I was like, "No, no, 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 no." And then eventually I was like, "Okay, I can try." Like I'll try to trust you. And ever since then, my whole life has just kind of been like, woo, woo. Shortly after that, that's when the ministry started unintentionally. I didn't start the ministry, but it was God dropped it on my lap because I was on TikTok and I just decided, well, maybe there's people out there like me who don't have anybody to share the faith with or don't have anyone to guide them in the faith or whatever. Maybe I could find a community. And lo and behold, I did find a community on TikTok of Catholic content creators. And we were known as the Catholic TikTok. It was compiled of like Ethan Potter, and I don't remember their names. Ariana. I don't remember their Gabrielle. It was so long ago. It was almost 5 years ago now. But we just had this little tight knit group, and I realized when I went online that there was nobody really my age talking about the faith. There might have been like one or two here, but most of the channels were old or inconsistent posting, and I felt like a lot of them didn't really know what they were talking about either. Some were really good, but it just kind of felt like I wasn't getting fed properly, right? And not that I had anything against like Jimmy Akin or Catholic Answers guys like Trent Horn. I'm friends with all of them now. They're all phenomenal. But when I was trying to discover the faith and get back into it, I really needed a perspective of not a woman necessarily, but just of someone my age, someone who understood what our generation went through, what we were going through, someone who I could relate to, my age. And I just didn't find that. So I thought, well, maybe I could become that for other people. And that's kind of where we are now. We've we've come so far. It's so interesting. But I will say I've always kind of struggled with um community, because even though I found the community, it's just, I don't know. Even though I found community online for a short amount of time, because the ministry took off so quickly, I really struggled to find community in person, because a lot of people just wanted to be my friend because I was the religious hippie. And then other people didn't want to be my friend at all. Usually it was the women, because I don't know. I don't actually ever really know why. Um, People said, they were like, "Oh, well, they're just jealous," or like, "Oh, this or that." I never really understood that or accepted that as an answer. I just felt really ostracized. So even though I originally started the ministry to find community, when I went to these groups and stuff, I was either like suffocated or I was completely ostracized. It was either one or the other, and I couldn't just be Amber. People wanted advice. They wanted this. They wanted to know how to get their ministry off the ground. They wanted to know business stuff and all these things. And um, as much as I do love and appreciate those conversations, it's very hard for people to see me. And there seems to be a parasocial relationship that goes on, which, I mean, I get that's just a thing, but people forget that, content creators like me and so many other people are human too. And when we do our best to try and like connect with you guys and everything, um, sometimes, what's the term? Sometimes we don't have a community of our own, and so, which is why I've kind of joined with Soka and stuff. I kind of have that now, but yeah, that was always a struggle for sure. But yeah, how do you get a preteen interested in the faith? Well, you can't really get a preteen interested in the faith, because at the end of the day, preteens are kind of like all over the place. I'm going to be honest. I would say you can't force anyone, no matter their age, to be interested in the faith. My I don't know. I would say if you can take them to the traditional Latin mass, sometimes teenagers really, really gravitate towards the TLM and they love it. I don't agree with parents who say, oh, we need to make the mass more interesting to the kids. No, the mass does not change to become more interesting to the kids, or to keep we shouldn't have to convince people to stay in mass by changing it. The mass should not change. It should be respectful. It should honor God. It's not about us, it's about him and what we're giving him. It should not be about the lay people. And so many lay people are like, "Well, what am I getting out of mass? What am I getting? I, me." Stop it. Stop being selfish. It's not about you. The world does not revolve around you. And I think so many people are stuck in this main character syndrome. Not saying that's you. I'm sorry. This is a little tangent, okay? Because I've been seeing it a lot. It's really irks. It's crazy. What was I saying? Ah, yes. I would say take her to the traditional Latin mass, or him. I don't know if it's boy or girl. But take them to the traditional Latin mass if you have one nearby, or honestly just having an open conversation with them about it. Like I said earlier in this segment, um, I think you can't force kids to follow the faith, right? You can raise them up right. You can do everything you possibly can to make sure that they have a strong Catholic foundation, but they're still going to stray away. Some of them will, others don't. It just kind of depends. I find that community can really help people stay in their faith, but the only community where I've seen young preteen Catholics or teenage Catholics stick together in their faith is at the traditional Latin Mass. Sometimes it can get a little cliquey. I'm not a huge fan of the clickiness, but for the most part, they are very devout, and they do take their faith very seriously. So it might just be a certain, it might concern community for all we know. You never really know, but I think if she goes to public school or Catholic school, which honestly might as well just be public school at this point, and she has community there, but she doesn't have community in her church, that could be a big problem. That could be one of the reasons why. And I think, if your church does a big trip like, NCYC, National Catholic Youth Conference, or, Focus Missionaries does a whole bunch of stuff from, what is it called? What do they do like twice a year? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it. I can't Seek. I know Clay is about to type it into the chat and I'm about to be like, ah, yes, seek. Okay. So, whatever it might be, she might just need some community, right? But at the same time, forcing a teenager to be Catholic is not going to make them Catholic. That doesn't mean that if they're underage or whatever, that you should just leave them at home and go to mass and whatever. Like, no. But if you still take them to Sunday mass, it's like that's still a win, right? Um, but forcing and pushing, etc., might end up driving them further away from the faith. And I think showing them what it's like to live a devout Catholic life is going to be more important than just like talking at them and trying to get them invested in the faith or trying to do things to make them more Catholic. Um, so yeah, that's my advice. And with all of that being said, guys, I'm so sorry. I do have to go. I have another meeting in literally 15 minutes. Um, but I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your day. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.